At the sound of this one word, some hearts flutter, some others skip a beat. There's a rush of adrenaline for some, and others blush. Love surprisingly has been equated with emotions. But what if the love equated with a monster? Princess Amelia fell for a monster kaelen. Once upon a time, in a kingdom veiled by mist and whispered legends, there was a princess named Amelia, known for her beauty, grace, and the sadness that lingered in her eyes. The people spoke of her kindness and her heart, but the truth was far more complicated. She was trapped within the walls of her own palace, bound by duties and expectations, and could never step beyond the boundaries of the kingdom without feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. Beyond the kingdom, deep within the forgotten forest, there was a creature, a monster. They called him Kaelen, whose name had been lost to time. His eyes were the color of the moonlit sky, his fur as dark as the midnight sea, and his heart was said to be made of shadows. But those who spoke of him never truly understood what he was. He was not a monster, he was simply an outcast, cursed to roam the wilderness alone. One evening, when the sky was painted with hues of lavender and gold, Princess Amelia, longing for something more than the cage she had been confined to, wandered beyond the castle walls. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and the quiet murmur of the woods. She followed a path that seemed to call to her, as though the earth itself whispered her name. It was there, in the heart of the forest, that she found him, half hidden beneath the veil of trees, his form magnificent yet fragile in its own way. At first she was terrified, but there was something in his eyes, soft, pleading, and ancient, that made her hesitate. She stepped closer, her heart beat louder than the wind, but he did not move. He only watched her, his gaze not full of malice but curiosity. "Who are you?" Princess Amelia asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid that speaking too loudly would break the delicate spell between them. The creature's voice was deep but soothing. "I'm no one. I'm the forgotten, the lost. I was once a prince, but now I am a shadow." Princess, without thinking, reached out her hand. "You are not a shadow. You are something more. You are real." And in that moment, something shifted between them. He, who had been living in solitude, felt a connection to this princess, who was lonely as he was. Days turned into weeks, and Princess visited him often, drawn to the untold stories in his eyes and the strange peace she found in his presence. She learned of his curse, of how he was condemned to bear the form of a beast until he was freed by an act of pure love. They spoke of everything, the sky, the stars, the stories of their worlds, and slowly the prince's heart, which had once been closed and cold, began to open. She saw past the fur, the claws, the horns, and instead she saw the soul of the man he once was. She saw the quiet sadness in his gaze. She saw the quietness in his gaze, the longing for connection that mirrored her own. One evening, as the moonlight bathed the forest in silver, Princess made a choice. She made a choice for life. She kissed him, not out of pity, but out of love. A love that had been growing silently like a flower beneath the surface waiting to bloom. In that moment, the spell was broken. The curse lifted, and the creature who had once been a monster was revealed, not as a beast, but as a man, his form regal and handsome, though touched by the scars of his past. Princess, and her heart racing, looked into his eyes. For the first time, she saw not a prince, not a monster, but the man she loved. Together they returned to the kingdom where the love transcended the boundaries of status, and the walls of the castle were no longer a cage, but a place of freedom. The people who had once feared him saw the truth in his heart, and the kingdom was forever changed. Princess Amelia and the man once called a monster ruled with a love that was as wild and untamed as the forest they had found each other in. And they lived not as the princess and the monster, but as the two souls bound together by a love that was more powerful than any curse. Princess Amelia and the monster. Princess Amelia and her prince kaelen.